The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters. He should have immediately denounced the mob when he saw what was unfolding. These facts require immediate action by President Trump.
Hi again, everyone. It's 5 o'clock in the East. 1 week after the Capitol insurrection, hearing that comment right there from one of Trump's strongest allies, that was Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, gave some a sliver of hope that the Trump takeover of House Republicans might be ebbing. Kevin McCarthy would prove us all wrong for hoping that chants of hang Mike Pence and a noose erected to do just that would shake Kevin McCarthy from his Trump servitude. 9 days after Joe Biden took office, McCarthy was down at Mar-a-Lago kissing Trump's ring. But even more dangerous than his slobbering loyalty is McCarthy's attempt to rewrite what actually happened the day of the insurrection. Here he is yesterday responding to Fox News' Chris Wallace about his phone call with Trump on 1/6, showing a near about face from those comments on the House floor. Watch.
When I talked to President Trump I was the first person to contact him when the riots was going on. He didn't see it. What he ended the call was telling me he'll put something out to make sure to stop this. And that's what he did. He put a video out later.
Quite a lot later. And it was a pretty weak video. But I'm asking you specifically, did he say to you, I guess some people are more concerned about the election than you are?
No, listen, my conversations with the president are my conversations with the president. I engaged in the idea of making sure we could stop what was going on inside the Capitol at that moment in time, and the president said he would help.
In the video, just a reminder, the president literally said, "We love you," to the insurrectionists. McCarthy's weakness and penchant for putting loyalty to Trump over everything else, over accountability to the truth, are on full display. And it's a mindset that's detailed in a new piece of reporting in the New York Times about him. The Times reports this, quote, as the end of the Trump presidency devolved into turmoil and violence, McCarthy faced a dilemma, one that has bedeviled his party for nearly 5 years. Should he cut Trump loose, as many Republicans were urging, or should he keep trying to make it work with an ousted president who remains the most popular and motivating force inside the GOP? McCarthy chose the latter, and not for the first time. His extravagant efforts to ingratiate himself with Trump have earned him a reputation for being an alpha lapdog inside Trump's kennel of acolytes. What's even more ominous is McCarthy's full-throated defense of his role in perpetuating the big lie, a falsehood we already know has serious, sometimes deadly consequences. More from that great Times reporting from Mark Leibovich. Quote, pressed on whether he regretted working to overturn President Biden's 2020 victory, McCarthy took the position that he did no such thing. Quote, we voted not to certify 2 states, he said, referring to Arizona and Pennsylvania, whose slates of electoral votes McCarthy and fellow Republicans voted to challenge, despite offering no proof of fraud that would have altered the final tallies. But even if the Republicans' challenge had been successful in those states, Mr. McCarthy argues, the electoral votes would not have been enough to tip the nationwide vote away from Mr. Biden. Quote, and Joe Biden would still be sitting in the White House right now, he says. That narrative, undermined by Trump himself, who to this day views the election as stolen from him, it was not, of course, and felt stopping the congressional counting of the electoral votes on January 6th was his chance to get it back. So here we are, 4 months after the insurrection, and Trump's lapdogs are still defending Trump's actions, still choosing him to be their future, the future of the Republican Party, and still to this day, repeating the big lie. Like we're seeing right now in Arizona, as state Senate Republicans are running a faux audit of ballots in Maricopa County that have already been counted 3 times. The GOP doubling and tripling down on the dangerous and deadly big lie is where we start this hour with some of our favorite reporters and friends. Charlie Sykes is here, editor-at-large of The Bulwark. Also joining us, Sam Stein, White House editor for Politico and former RNC chairman. You know I'm coming to you first. Michael Steele's here, lucky for us, all 3 MSNBC contributors. So, Michael Steele, there's a great piece of reporting on McCarthy. I'm coming to you first, but this refusal now that we know 2 new facts. We know that the domestic violent extremism threat that our intel chiefs and FBI director testified to in the last few weeks, the people who threaten us believe in the big lie. Not everyone who believes in the big lie threatens us, but a big chunk of the people who represent domestic violent extremist threats believe in the big lie. So one, there's new information that could make Kevin McCarthy say, you know what, I don't want to exacerbate a domestic violent extremism threat. And two, they're choosing Donald Trump. Donald Trump didn't choose any of them. You could take or leave any one of them. This affirmative selection of him to be their leader, they have to boost him up now. He doesn't have a platform on which to communicate. So they're now propping him up so that he can continue to lead them. Why go out of their way to perpetuate that dysfunctional relationship that now contributes to a domestic violent extremism threat in the country?
So, because where do you go? where else do you go with this
anywhere
point?
else. I mean,
well, yeah, for normal people, yeah, you would go in somewhere else. You would back away from it. Kevin McCarthy has been given opportunity after opportunity to set a different course, to, raise a different narrative. But the reality of it is, he wants to be Speaker of the House. He figures this is the pathway he needs to take to get there, even though when that moment comes, if it should come, Donald Trump is not going to be there for Kevin McCarthy, because Donald Trump will find somebody else who will be more Trumpian, more legitimately Trumpian, to be the Speaker of the House. And so the reality of it is, these folks put themselves out there for someone who doesn't care about them and would not put himself out there for them. And so they find themselves in this weird space where they perpetuate the lies. They try to change the narratives. They tell us that we don't see what we see or hear what we hear, all because they think on the other side of this, their objectives, their personal objectives, their political objectives will be realized. But the fact of the matter is, it's not. The American people, look, this is the guy who wants to be the Speaker of the House. Now the census numbers are coming out. We're seeing where the demographics are shifting in the country. We recognize that the future could very well reveal a Kevin McCarthy type or Trump type Speaker of the House. So what it tells me is that we as citizens have to re-engage. We have to get into this thing differently than we have, because the people who are now calling the shots, at least in one party, do not have our best interest at heart in the long term. And those of us inside and outside of that party have to try to change that course. And that's the reality. It goes back to what you and Claire were talking about in the last hour. Call the thing what it is and be prepared to fight that thing. You can't pretend otherwise.
And Charlie, I guess it matters because Kevin McCarthy can't be trusted to believe in what Kevin McCarthy said on the floor of the House chamber. So it's not, my view of what a leader in the party should say after a sitting president incites a deadly insurrection, as Liz Cheney so clearly, and I guess in today's context, bravely said he did. It's Kevin McCarthy sitting there yesterday without the spine or the whatever to own up to his own past diagnosis of what happened on 1/6. And the audacity to walk away from his own public statements is mind-bending. I mean, where do you go when Kevin McCarthy is now sort of contradicting Kevin McCarthy on 1/6?
Well, Kevin McCarthy is gaslighting as he's trying to engage in historical revisionism, but what you see there is the cowardice. Look, bottom line, he's not a leader, and we don't see any leaders. They are followers, and they're following the base, and they're following Donald Trump's lead. And I don't want to be misunderstood here, but I have a sense that we've actually moved beyond this all being about Trump. I mean, Trump still is an imminent threat to American democracy, no question about it. But I think what's happened is that sort of Trumpian mentality, the big lie, the conspiracy theories have metastasized in the Republican Party, so that they may look like they are still calling the shots, but they're following something that they can't control and they don't fully understand. And I think that you've done a great job in connecting the dots. Look what's happening in Arizona, where you have this absolutely bizarre artificial audit, which appears to be designed to advance the big lie. Now, that seems to be kind of a grassroots thing. I mean, it's being egged on by Donald Trump, who, as usual, would like to send in the National Guard because he's got the fetish with having guns around the people trying to steal elections. But you are actually now seeing a larger and larger portion of the Republican base who think in terms of these conspiracy theories, who are open to these kinds of ideas, and who expect this. So you have, again, it is largely about Donald Trump, but it's also almost moving past Donald Trump, because Donald Trump has left in his wake this weird stew of false information and credulousness. And of course, you have people like Kevin McCarthy who don't have the moral integrity or the backbone to stand up and speak out against it.
I totally agree with you. And I don't want to derail what the other stories we were going to get to. And I'm going to bring you into this in a second, Sam. But this is the conversation that needs to be had. We covered this incorrectly. Fear of Trump was the excuse for all of Mitch McConnell and Rob Portman and Kevin McCarthy and all these weenies who look the other way when Casey Hunt and Leanne Caldwell and Garrett Haake were there with the camera saying, do you believe with this outrageous thing that Donald Trump tweeted today? And our frame was they must be afraid of our cameras because they're scared of Trump. We were wrong. They are Trump. And you are right. This story is no longer about Trump. It's what Trump revealed the Republicans to be. And I dare say my old boss was putting it nicely, Charlie, when he said the Republicans are now, they stand for isolationism, protectionism, and nativism. And I'll add one more, flagrant racism. And how do you not lump extremism into it, too? If you look at the intersection between the ideology that represents the gravest domestic violent extremism threat and the lies that Kevin McCarthy refused to knock down when Chris Wallace gave him multiple chances to do so yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, these guys have been playing with matches for the last 4 years. They've been dousing kerosene on American democracy. And now there's a conflagration, and they don't know what to do about it. They certainly aren't going to be leading the campaign against it. There was that brief flicker, that little spasm of independence by Kevin McCarthy, where it looked like he saw where things were going and was going to speak out against it. But that didn't last long because, again, they've created something that they can't stop. And, you know, whether or not Donald Trump continues to pull the strings or whether he comes back in 2024.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.